Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Hole in the World, an actual play of the Invisible Sun RPG by Monty Cook Games. I am your host, as always, your GM, Zach, otherwise known as Great Zanino. If my voice echoes a little differently and I seem to have a different background, it's because in all of this chaos, in all of the world, I have decided now is the time to move apartments. So, coming to you from the magic of a different place in Brooklyn. As always, joining me are my lovely cast members, starting with on the my left on the screen, or actually my right on the screen, playing one of our resident two apostates, Gavriel.
Hey, it's Marcy, aka Experimental Madness, playing Gavriel Glinsky, the ardent iconoclastic apostate who hosts a choir, and it never gets old saying that entire title.
Finally, secondly, below her, playing our resident weaver, Maurice.
Hey, I'm Bill. I'm playing Maurice Webb, a stalwart empath of the Order of Weavers who turns tales into reality. I'm currently in the hospital because I just got attacked by a hate cyst and my arm's a tentacle now.
Oh yeah, that was a very nice summary. On the opposite side on the screen, playing our second resident apostate, Twigg.
It's me, a Hopper. What's up, y'all? I'm Hopper, they, them, and I will be playing Twigg, the mendicant gallant apostate who eats knowledge with their grabby paws. And who is currently probably just sleeping in an abandoned lot because they classy.
And how. And finally, last but certainly not least, playing our resident Vance, Kyrrie.
Greetings, everyone. I'm Marissa, also known as Critical Kitten on the internet, and I play Kyrielle von Hollingsworth, the first assistant librarian of the Order of the Vance. She is an aromatic stoic who understands the words, guardian of Zaleska's grimoire, curator of King Nine's library, and a host of other things to add to her nom de plume. And recently, investigator of the Deathless Triumvirate. So that's an interesting thing I think all of us want to explore.
Yeah, speaking of that, let's go ahead and kind of rewind exactly what has been happening in this world with these Vizsla since we last left them. So previously, all of them had managed to survive a fairly tormenting experience defeating a hate cyst. In the middle of the Lunarian Opera House within the Topiary District, one of the 17 city districts of Satyrine, the City of Notions, and the main setting for our story. A lot of stuff was revealed, namely that Maurice did indeed suffer a bit of a malady when, through the power of this horrifying hate cyst, his hand or arm was transformed into that of a kind of writhing tentacle, which the resident angel of the hospital in which he found himself let him know that that was actually in the process, his body was in the process of being transformed into a hate cyst, or a cyst spawn, which is a creature created by a hate cyst. So good thing that that was stopped, but unfortunately the tentacle arm ends just above the below the elbow, and it's not a good look. At least not for Maurice. But at the same time, Maurice, you had this really interesting dream where you encountered another version of yourself. Super cool. I believe that also kind of takes us back to what you guys were up to. You guys, the remaining three of you that did not require immediate medical attention, found yourself in the seat of Satyrinian government in the Marquis Quarter, where a member of the Pristine Guards detective force, essentially one of a handful of Vizsla assigned special tasks by the Deathless Triumvirate, congratulated you guys on not only defeating the hate cyst, that plagued the city, but also warned you not to increase your profile with such things like the murder of Dren the Devoured, which you guys discovered he knew about. So Yondo Trask, in the process of having this talk to you guys, was antagonized by one of our resident apostates, or well, both, let's be honest. But at one point, Twigg, you felt it was appropriate to shake his hand. And it did not go well for you, and it did not go well for the rest of the party. And Gavriel and Kyrrie, not only did Twigg take a random thought of what you were doing at the time and kind of stop you in your tracks, but Gavriel, you also found out that your friend Nikolai had maybe not purposefully been hiding something, or maybe on purpose, but Nikolai has a ability that he had not disclosed previously, which had a profound effect on not only your relationship, but also the trust that any bearing of trust that Twigg might have for that person. And it's, I think, at this moment where we are going to rejoin the rest of the party. I think taking a look at the scenes I think we all want to kind of have, I think the most appropriate thing is to begin in media res following the meeting. Gavriel, Nikolai, maybe Kyrrie, kind of depending on how things go. But let me put some music on to set the scene. It has been a long struggle to get to this point. You have survived the machinations of a mindless, hateful cyst. And this thing had shown you harrowing visions of your role within the greater scope of this party that you find yourself a part of. And just after you had discovered the acquaintance and rediscovery of your old friend Nikolai, did you start this kind of embark on this terrifying mission. And the aftermath of this has left you with quite not only a number of questions about the Deathless Triumvirate, but it's also left you with many questions that you might have about your relationship with your former friend. And as you are ushered out of the of Yondo Trask's office by the members of the Pristine Guard, these faceless soldier-like Praetorian Guard-like members, bearing golden armor and mirrored faceplates, you see almost kind of a cautious distance away from you, your friend, Nikolai. What does Nikolai do when they're nervous?
I don't know how often Gav has seen Nikolai truly nervous before. Normally, like, he's the one with, like, a ready quip. Usually he's keeping the mood light even when we were going into battle or the night before. Honestly, I think the thing he does when he's nervous is he talks.
Yeah. I think that that's the thing that you notice is that he is not talking right now. He is kind of almost like wringing his hands a little bit, kind of nervously shifting. And I think that you notice, the urge for him to raise his head to look at you is a strong one, but his gaze is still kind of a little bit at the floor. And you realize that he is afraid. What do you do?
Are we still being flanked by guards, or have we been set free back into the world of Citrine?
Yeah, basically, you will not find any way back into the office. They are not barring your path any place to any particular offices. You see them stationed around, but the kind of thoroughfares, the walkways around these offices are fairly free and open, and there are very clear pathways towards an exit. And I think one of these exits, which is on one of the upper floors where you guys were basically flown up to, is open and accepting people on their way out of the Sky Tower.
So this is the gentle but firm, don't turn around and don't try to go into any other place. Please keep going straight into the light.
Don't you feel like a hero of the realm? Yeah, absolutely.
Totally. There's nothing suspicious going on here. I think naturally as she's feeling urged to go towards this exit, she walks in step next to Nikolai. And she's not looking directly at him. Her face is pretty stony, given the recent events. I honestly think that she's so preoccupied with everything that she's just heard about the Deathless Triumvirate and hate cysts. That's what's at the forefront of her mind. But there's this beat as she's walking next to her friend where he's not saying anything, which is unusual. And I think Gav naturally just goes, well, nothing to say in our current circumstances? You didn't find that at all distressing or disturbing to hear?
Of course I found it disturbing and distressing. I was worried about where we stand.
Why don't you tell me? If I hazarded to guess, I'd say you've been telling me exactly where we stand this entire time.
Yes, I was afraid to tell you about what I do. And I knew that maybe when we have some time, maybe I could tell you these things, but a lot has happened all at once.
So was anything you said to me since we met true? Was anything I said my own? Did you orchestrate all of it?
And you see there's a flash in his eyes. And there's something that you see cross his eyes as you say that to him. And I think you realize very clearly that he is fighting his ability to do what he does. And so he just says, I know sometimes what you want to hear. I'm trying very hard not to do it. But sometimes makes it easier for me to talk to you when we met. But everything you say, everything I say is true. Everything you say is what you meant to say. I regret what I did to your friend, Twigg. But it was a stressful situation.
You understand why I'm having a hard time believing this?
And he bows his head. Yes, I know.
Does this church take advantage of such abilities?
Only if the person wants to be taken advantage of, and oftentimes those people don't think of it as a bad thing. It's what they want.
Which I'm sure they've encouraged.
I think you have wrong interpretation of this. The church, for everything, the Church of Midnight, they are what they say they are. No more, no less. They are an adversary. I do not see them doing anything else that they don't already say. Are they bad? Yes. But at least if they stab you in front. They do not stab you behind.
What am I supposed to make of this, Nikolai? You lie to me, you manipulate my own comrades. You make it impossible for me to work with them, let alone you.
And I'm gonna turn a card. Because I need to know exactly what he does in this case. Okay.
Have they done it again?
No, I think this one's different. Misremembered dream. Confusion, mistakes, change in identity. Dreams are strange constructs of our subconscious, made stranger still because we don't remember them clearly. Isn't necessarily a bad card turn. It suggests confusion or mistakes, but they don't need to be confusion or mistakes of the person in question. Poor memory or befuddlement of anyone. It might also suggest that one should adopt a new identity or disguise something important in order to succeed. And I think it's at this point that Nikolai says, if I could change who I am, I would. I can do this thing, and it is a boon in some ways, and in many ways it is a curse. But more than anything, I want to be your friend, and I want to be your ally, and somebody you can trust. I don't have all the answers, and I know the things that you want to hear. But I'm trying not to do that. I'm not trying to tell you what you want to hear. I just want to be true to you.
That is what I wanted to hear. So you are able to do it without relying on these strange powers.
And there's kind of a look of half hope, half oh no on his face.
Nikolai, you are my friend. I can't even begin to explain the fact that I've wanted to find somebody that at least made sense in this place. We all came here with some abilities that we don't even understand. But you can choose how you use them and for what purpose.
And I will do that. I will do that from now on. I will be better. I promise.
You don't need to be better for me. You should want to be better for you. I can barely save myself. Don't ask me to save you.
I will.
Now, as she's reaching the exit, I need to visit another friend. I need to visit Maurice. We were told he was in the hospital, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely.
that's what I thought.
Yeah.
There's much that I think that you can still help me with.
Just name it.
I think you can start by telling me more about this Church of Midnight and who it is that they're up against. Because I'm not entirely sure anymore if they're my enemy or a useful ally in this situation.
Maybe both. We'll see. But not an initiate, really. Just somebody they helped. But I'll help best I can. And he begins starting to talk to you about this as you wind your way out. But before we do that, before we cut away from this, Kyrrie, where are you in all of the chaos and everything that's been going on?
I think Kyrrie probably would have either gone back to the Vancian campus to see Allegra, and then would have decided to meet up with Gav to see Maurice, or would have gone to Maurice first and then planned to go to Allegra later, or Alinea later. But one of those two, I think, is where her mind is at.
Excellent. So we're going to cut away from the Sky Tower in the Marquis Quarter. Twigg, I believe you already have made your exit as well, correct? Okay. So I think in lieu of kind of what's been going on, I think that let's go ahead and jump a little bit forward in time to Kyrrie. You have found your way back to the Vancian campus. You have gone to the university infirmary, where you have heard that Alinea is being treated for her time in the Lunarian Opera House. And I think it's just outside of her room that you find yourself, as you are kind of having kind of made your way through any number of cantrals as well as medically specialized vances. You find yourself outside of Alinea's room.
Would I found out from any of those, the hospital staff, other cantrals, about what Alinea's current condition is and whether she's awake?
Yeah, I think at this point she's accepting visitors. They have found that she's just been kind of, think of it as kind of like being almost like being treated for a severe concussion. Basically, whatever this noise that you heard, this kind of vibratory static, when you were traversing the Lunarian Opera House, this is what she was kind of suffering from and what basically attacked her. And it's had some sort of like psychic effect on her. And one of Cantral is kind of telling you this information. And I believe that you were escorted back by that Parasod agent that was leading the others. At this point, you have found your way back. They have kind of stepped away to attend to their duties. And now Alinea is beginning to accept visitors. I believe at this point, by the time you get back, it's pretty early, middle of the morning. And so it's probably just when they would have started accepting visitors.
Okay.
Yeah. What do you... I think standing outside of the door, you kind of see a little portico window looking in, and I think there's a vase of flowers by her bed, and there's kind of a fish swimming around it. Swimming through it as though it were reeds in a stream. And what do you do?
I think Kyrrie probably has in her hands 2 cups of coffee, which she's tried to keep on the down low, you know, like smuggled in her bag and hoping it doesn't spill all over the grimoire kind of thing. And she probably picked them up because she knows that Alinea quite likes a certain blend of coffee. And so I think she tentatively knocks on the door and listens.
At which point, you just say, here, oh, who is... Ow! Who is it?
It's Kyrrie.
And
Can I come in?
there is a pause. And then... Please do.
So Kyrrie opens the door and walks in a little, I think, kind of trepidatiously, like she doesn't know quite what she's going to find or how well she's going to be received. What does she see?
Alinea is sitting up in bed. I think there is a small spell book on the opposite table from the vase and the fish that you saw. She is rubbing her temples, and there appears to be kind of this almost like halo-like light above her head, which seems to kind of give off this very kind of effulgent aura. And there is also just, I think that the thing that you notice is a lot of the kind of clinical treatment of Vance is very personalized. It's also, it's much more kind of familiar than you would expect from a hospital bed. You would expect it to be as clinical as the Vance, but it's almost kind of like much more personalized and empathetic, and as it's more tailored and more efficient to speak to the needs of the patient in general. And so it's almost like rather than a set of hospital linens, you see her, she's underneath a quilt.
Bit of light reading. She points to the spellbook.
And she just, while kind of massaging her temples, yes, I was in the middle of a report.
Oh?
About what transpired. But
already? Shouldn't you rest first?
Well, there's work to be done.
Yes, but you could do the work so much more effectively if you were at your best.
Suppose I can't argue with that.
No, you can't. Coffee? I brought you some coffee. I know how you like that.
Sure. And, I think she kind of looks just over your shoulder to look for if there's an attending Vance, and
When she's gonna like hold up her hand like, shh, it's a secret. Don't tell them.
And she nods, and there's a smile that plays at the corner of her lips. And you can actually make me an interaction roll if you like.
Yeah. Will do.
I think challenge for this will be 7.
Okay.
So feel free to spend Bene as normal.
Yeah, I'll spend a Bene on this. And that's a 7, so 8.
Okay. You get the sense that maybe she's not really ready to accept visitors, but she has accepted your company anyway. I think with that role, that's what you get. There's something a little bit there though that kind of pauses you for a moment. You don't know necessarily what it is, but there's something about her demeanor. But and almost as you notice that, she kind of regains as best of a professional bearing as she can.
Do you remember the first time we met? You brought me coffee then too. It was a brilliant day. The sky was so saturated, it was almost incredible, this meteorological marvel, but I was stuck indoors in the library, and, well, to say I had an awful day at that time was an understatement, really, and I'd been dealing with some very aggressive patrons who were demanding that they have the access to materials for their research immediately. You know how it is, and you came in, turned on all your materials in on time, and our interaction was brief, but it was quick, and you were kind, and you could tell, I think, that something was the matter, that I was stressed and difficult, because 3 hours later, when I came back from break, there was a cup of coffee sitting on my desk. No note, nothing else, just that. It was very kind.
I was glad to maybe give you a familiar face or a bit of comfort. I know being a new initiate in the middle of the Vancian campus can be a little overwhelming.
That's certainly an understatement as well.
So, how are you?
Funny, I was going to ask you the same thing.
To be honest, a lot of what transpired is hazy to me. I heard this dull whine, and I couldn't even think. I remember seeing, I was standing beside you, and then I was on my knees. But there wasn't just you, there were many of you. Does that make sense?
It does. A multitude.
It's terrifying. It was like every cell in my body just wanted to stop and felt like it was about to melt.
But you came anyway, didn't you?
Yes. And again, that sense of something you're not quite seeing plays at the back of your mind.
Alinea,
Yes?
why did you stay? Why did you come in there with me at all? You didn't have to. You could have walked away. You could have gotten backup.
I could have, but the need seemed urgent, and I knew that you'd go in without any backup anyhow. And you can make an interaction roll for me. Again, challenge is 7.
With the Bene added is 7, so 6 on the die.
Okay. You realize that what she just told you is a lie. You very slowly come to this realization, and it's very strange to you, as you have never really caught somebody in a lie before. It's always kind of flown over your head, or just kind of like that doesn't make sense, and you kind of deduce it. But what is very interesting is it's like looking in a mirror almost, and picking out a detail that's just not right.
Forgive me, Alinea, but that doesn't make sense. It's not quite logical.
Well,
Why wouldn't you tell me the truth?
I am not at liberty to say.
You're not at liberty to say?
No.
Well, who is? Is it classified why you came in there with me?
Kyrrie, I don't really know if I'm up for receiving visitors anymore.
Okay.
I apologize. I really should get as much of this writing done. I'm very grateful for the gesture.
Of course. And suddenly Kyrrie it's like a cold wave. Formal, professional, affront. Well, if you need to get to writing, then far be it from me to impede you in any way.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I am sorry. I came here to tell you that I'm very sorry for having inconvenienced you in such a way.
It's really no inconvenience. It's
Well, you did almost pay for it with your life, so I felt I should say something. And now I've said it. So I guess I shall leave you then.
We'll talk again when I've had some bed rest.
That sounds wise. Well, if you need me, you should just... I'll be around campus and what have you. I always seem to find myself back here.
Very well. Thank you. And she kind of lies back in the bed, kind of idly looks at the fish before kind of returning her gaze to the other table and picking up the notebook along with a pen beside it.
I think Kyrrie, as she leaves, turns back just once.
Mm-hmm.
And looks at Alinea, just like takes one long searching look, almost as if she was hoping that Alinea would look back up at her, that she'd be able to look into her eyes and get some kind of confirmation that things are okay, that nothing changed between them. But I don't know that she gets that comfort.
I don't think so either. But I think that it has left you in kind of this... I will say there is one other bit of business. And I am going to turn a card to determine what happens. Oh my.
That's not the noise you like you like to hear.
Forbidden game.
Oh no.
Its meanings, and there's basically an illustration of the Weaver's game, of the Spider's game here, in the illustration of the card. Its meanings are danger, intellect, strategy, and balance. Its value is 2. It accentuates blue magic and weakens red. And its meanings are danger, intellect, strategy, and balance. The game isn't like life. It's better. It's more realistic. Okay. So, as you are kind of making your way away from Alinea, I think a lot is in your mind. And I know that as you are kind of making your way back to the campus, you do have this piece of the hate cyst still in your bag. And that is when, filled with all these kind of conflicting emotions, that is when the bracelet on your wrist, that single link, glows red 3 times, and your vision shifts. And you find yourself in a familiar place, surrounded by candle flame, a throne 20 feet in front of you, and a very familiar voice speaks and catches your attention.
Miss von Hollingsworth.
King 9? You could have rang.
Oh, but I believe that time was a bit of the essence.
Oh.
I couldn't help but notice. I couldn't help but feel. You made an interesting discovery recently.
And what would that be?
Why, I believe a little piece of trauma is leaking out of your bag, radiating a sickness.
You must mean the hate cyst.
Yes, indeed. I must thank you for procuring it for me.
Oh, for you. For your collection.
Well, seeing as you did remove one piece of it already, I felt
Yeah.
it might be a fair trade.
I can't deny you this as your librarian, but I had hoped to study it a bit further before we lock it away in a dusty room where it may never be seen again. Do you need it now?
You may study it here, but it is mine now.
What do you intend to do with it?
Whatever I wish. Would you deny me this?
Well, under the terms of our contract, I am not sure that the acquisition of any item that should come into my possession automatically is granted to your ownership. Certainly, an item which comes into my possession as my employer is something that you have the right to examine and perhaps even extract some information from. But it does not belong to you.
Well, think of this as a rider, an addendum to the intellectual property that you have seized from me.
Seized is a strong word. Shared, perhaps. Opened.
Rhetorical games are entertaining for a short period of time. But patience is finite.
It is, however, also a virtue.
Tread very carefully.
I shall not deny you this, King Nine. But you will have it on my terms, not yours. After all, I did discover it.
This secret too shall be mine. You realize?
The secret.
Little secrets that you carry. Tiny snips. Samples. You can either trade me that piece you took back now. The longer you wait to do it, the more severe the reparation.
So it is a gamble, then?
One I'm not sure you're ready to afford, little Vance.
As your curator, you ought to afford me more trust. I shan't do anything to this cyst, and I shan't keep it from you forever. But as I said, I think it is fair that I set the terms of when it comes into your possession.
Make an interaction roll for me.
Happy to do it.
Your target is a 15
Ooh, fun.
with mixed results.
Oh,
Possible.
good. Yeah, there's no way I can totally succeed. That's fair. I'll pump a Bene into it anyway, because why not?
Okay. How'd you do?
That's an 8, so 9.
Well, 9 for King 9. I think that...
Hey, that's symmetrical.
Okay. So, I think King 9 thinks for a moment, strokes this candle flame beard with the tips of his fingers.
Very well. Go now. And in the future, should you need a bit of assistance with such a thing as a hate cyst, know that I'll have a chaperone ready for you.
Indeed. Thank you, King Nine. I imagine, were you in my shoes, I'd like to think you would have stood your ground as well. After all, I can't imagine you want employees who just cave at any bit of pressure, would you?
Well, they do have their uses. Those little paper tigers you fold and crumple and crush.
Indeed. Luckily for you, I am not one of them.
And as your vision changes yet again, you find yourself back on the Vancian campus. However, the camera does not leave King 9. At which point, King Nine's Cavail comes to their side. You would have me follow her? Kill her?
Not you. And not yet.
And we are going to cut from there. And we're going to cut back to about 5:30 now. Let's go ahead and I think that we're going to do one. I think that some time jumps are going to be necessary, but about how long is it, you think, Maurice, before you start reaching out to the rest of the group?
So, at the time I entered the opera house, I was a week away from Kenroy's ceremony, and I think I've spent probably the better part of that time convalescing. Mm-hmm. And I think it would probably have been, considering that Kenroy and Basil visited me pretty much immediately, I think we'll put it at 3 days past, where Maurice is going to, through various means, start reaching out to people, depending, of course, on his conversation with Gav.
I think, Gavriel, would you respond to kind of a request or an entreaty from Maurice?
So how we left it, Gav was leaving the Spire. I don't think it was called the Spire, but I want to call it the Spire. And was heading directly to the hospital. No memo or note required. She was already going. Mm-hmm. So it would have happened in the same day that she was having that conversation with Nikolai, that she would have immediately gone over. Doesn't even know if they're gonna let her in.
Yeah, at which point...
Would they?
Yeah, I think at this point, actually, that is a very good point. As you enter this hospital in Rive River, where they have let you know, where the where Yondo Trask basically told you where Maurice is being treated, there are two things that strike you, two things that happen. Outside of the hospital, on an opposite street, as you are walking past, I'm going to turn a card for this. All right, okay. Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. Let's see how this goes. Oh, boy. The Questing Knight. Justice, journey, determination, achieving goals. The apprentice of the Visions family, the Questing Knight, is stalwart and focused individual seeking justice, but over the long term. The quest is long and hard. Success, however, comes to the persistent and the determined. Okay. Nothing stops the knight and their consecrated steed. No journey too long, no quest too difficult keeps them from their goal. I think that this is a apprentice of the Vision, Swans, Blades, and Water family. And what this looks like, essentially, is you are walking not far from your destination. And you cannot help but stop and notice that Maurice's house is across from the river, from the Rive River Hospital.
It's not usually, is it?
It is not.
Gav, I think Gav has access. She'll go up to the house.
As you walk up to the house, you notice that the paint on the outside It's as though it's been through flooding, as if it's kind of dripped down in parts, and there are some places that appear to have sustained water damage.
What happened here? She's examining the house. I mean, there's nobody there to literally ask that question of. But she just like kind of puts a hand on some of the walls and is just sort of like, Gav kind of knows that sometimes some of the houses in Saturnine are kind of like sentient. So she's like doing her best, like they're there.
And as you touch it, some of the bricks are a little spongy and membranous. And it's almost kind of like a sea sponge kind of. It still seems structurally sounds strangely enough, but you touch it and it's soft and wet in parts.
You know it's going to be okay. Maurice will come back.
You hear nothing. No response, no reply to stimuli.
I'm going to see him now. Could you dry off a little bit before he has to come back home?
There is a knocker on the door, and it just lifts up. And that's all you get.
Good enough. Then she'll be like, all right. She'll turn around. She was standing in the doorway. I don't think she like went all the way inside, and it's just like pats a hand on it, is like, okay. And then she turns back to the hospital.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. You turn back to the hospital, and the second thing that happens as you walk towards it is that there is as you kind of make your way, and you are referred by the general hospital staff. Nobody kind of greets you oddly. Nobody kind of has any kind of expectation for who you might be or any restrictions. But there is one thing that you find out as you travel up to Maurice's floor by an elevator that seems to be pulled by a gray stone kind of thought form above, and you can see it as it passes. It seems to be pulling up the pulley that controls the elevator. It seems to be like a gray thought form automaton that you see as it kind of travels up. The doors open and shut, and when you and I believe you took Nikolai as well, or are you going to go by your lonesome?
I didn't say that he had to come with me. I said what I was going to do.
Okay. At which point, Nikolai would have gone home to rest. And at this point, you walk into the elevators. The door opens on the floor in which Maurice is convalescing. And you see a 7-foot-tall angel with a wheel radiating behind her. 9 birds perched all around her, silver eyes, and a white flowing robe, who seems to be going over paperwork and making notes on charts. What do you do?
Well, this is awkward.
And as you say that, the knowing, beatific eyes of the angel Yimun fall on you. And there is a momentary flash of knowing and beneficence and kindness. And she says, you must be Maurice's friend.
Yes, Gavriel Glinsky.
Good. He has been expecting you.
Yes.
He has asked for you. One of several people, in particular.
Well, I'm here.
And I'm gonna turn a card as you walk, as she kind of gestures towards the room opposite of her where she's standing. I'm gonna turn a card and see what ends up happening. All right. The This card is the Alchemist. Complexity, transformation, and knowledge. Which I think, as you pass by her, on your way to Maurice's room, there is a moment of, wait. And she is looking straight at you. And she is looking at the halo in your chest. And she looks up. And she says, I know you. Or someone like you.
Or someone in me. And like, I feel like Gav like can see her eye line.
Yeah. At which point, yeah, she looks down at the halo, and she looks up at you and says, I hate to intrude.
You already have. Continue.
May I?
When you say that, what specifically are you about to do?
Your halo. Is it okay if one of my friends lights on it?
This isn't going to accidentally kill me, is it?
I would never.
Alright, go for it. Go ahead.
And a starling perched on her shoulder alights and flies through the halo and disappears.
That's the...
It is like indigestion. Like,
That's, if you can believe it, that's only the 10th weirdest thing to happen to me this last week.
Listening to Maurice describe your circumstances, I find that very believable. And at which point, after a few seconds, the starling flies back, and again, that kind of like feeling, and alights onto her shoulder and whispers and kind of seems to caw something in her ear. All of this is happening. Maurice, I believe you would probably be awake in bed by now.
Sure.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
I think, we're talking about, I don't know, around midday, probably.
Yeah.
The room is probably like, if there's two sources of light, one of them is off. It's kind of dark, and there's a tray of food that looks like it's been kind of just picked at.
Mm-hmm.
And Maurice is kind of sitting up in the bed, and you can see kind of beads of sweat on him, and his hair is a bit matted as he is using his left hand to kind of very slowly and judiciously write out something on a piece of paper.
As you do that, there is something very strange that you notice about your hand over the kind of the day, is that, as you've been kind of like trying to ignore it and trying to kind of keep it out of line of sight away from you while you're working with your left hand, you notice that as it coils, when it is flush against itself, it seems to resemble your normal flesh.
So yeah, just so I'm picturing this. So extended tentacle, as it kind of curls up, it changes color and appears to be flesh-like. Okay,
Yeah,
interesting.
exactly. It just almost seems to be like, as it kind of curls, it almost resembles a clenched fist.
Okay, so Maurice kind of flexes this
Yeah,
a couple times.
Absolutely. As you do it, it changes color kind of iridescently, and it just seems to kind of very strangely move. Still, it is incredibly disconcerting, and at any moment, your kind of focus kind of depends on your strength and force of will. So that when it kind of falters, it again like resembles that kind of disgusting tentacle to you.
So yeah, now instead of a kind of impatience on his face, now there is this kind of like exertion as he's stretching and holding these unnatural and new muscle formations for himself, and so he's kind of sitting and holding this up and kind of squinting with effort.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's at this point, while you're kind of having this these kind of like almost like motor exercises, that you hear Gavriel's voice outside.
A bunch of emotions go across his face, and you see maybe the intent to say something, and then immediately looks at his extended appendage, and finally curls it up and puts it down and picks up the pen again and begins writing.
Yeah. And and at which point Yiman looks at you, Gavriel, and says, I believe your friend is ready to receive visitors, if you would like.
Thank you. Did you get everything you wanted from that?
To be honest, I would like to spend some more time, but my friend has told me something interesting. Somebody I thought was lost. Somebody I know would be very interested to see her sister again.
What's your name?
Yi Mun. Y-I-M-U-N.
There are things about this situation that I don't understand fully. How could I contact you again?
I am wherever there is a great medical need, but
So I'll just throw myself off of a building and then you'll be there.
I would not advise it. But if you need to see me, you can come here. I will be here every Friday. That is typically when I visit. They do, however, bring me in for special cases, occasionally.
Friday it is.
Be well, Gavriel.
I'll do my best.
Please give my regards to Athario.
Immediately the inward thoughts are just like, you son of a bitch. You could have warned me, you could have said something as I was walking in here, not a word from you, not a peep, and now you've got to throw me with this. It's just like a litany that's like, stream of consciousness going through because she knows Athario can read her thoughts.
I have a sister? That's all you hear.
And Gav will go into Maurice's hospital room.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Maurice, Gavriel is standing in the doorway. What do you guys do?
Maurice puts down his pen and kind of folds the paper and sets it off next to the tray of uneaten food and says, Gav, come in. Sit down. It's good to see you.
You look great. Looks like you never even encountered the Yates.
Maurice's face drops entirely, and he says, thanks. And you can see he's kind of like maneuvered his arm out of eyesight.
Gav does not know what happened to you because she was raptorified.
Sure. Maurice says, thanks. What happened? I mean, I have some news to share with you, but you're the first person I've been able to see since the Opera House.
Well, we took care of it.
Are we in trouble?
Well, Define trouble.
I heard that you had gone off to the Marquess district.
Well, yes, but that happened. We're declared partial heroes, and may have angered some of the high-ranking individuals. I don't know. It's your typical. What day is it today? It's your typical day.
You mean, what happened?
And to spare our audience, Gav will fill Maurice in on the previous episode's events. She will lightly skim over some issues that she had with Twigg, but I do think, Maurice, it's very apparent that there's some pretty deep-seated anger in Gav.
And I think Maurice,
she's, like, joking around.
So yeah, Maurice will kind of hear that and say, like, leave it to us to turn a coronation of would-be heroes into enemies of the state in a matter of minutes.
Well, maybe the state should not be trying to make itself so easily to be made enemies of.
And Maurice looks at you with like true appreciation and like that kind of brotherly, fatherly love he has for you, and says, is there something you want to talk about with Twigg?
Maurice, I came here to make sure you are all right. I came here for you. You don't want to hear this part of it.
Well, if you want to talk, listening's what I'm good at.
I know that they're your special project, and that you feel that they were brought to you, to us.
To us.
To us for some sort of purpose, but I don't think I can be a part of that particular project any longer.
Why?
Well, for starters, I watched as they tried to attack one of my oldest friends, and then had the audacity to mess with my mind while claiming that was the same reason why they were attempting to harm Nikolai. So you can understand why I'm a little bit annoyed.
It does seem incongruent, their actions. But
yes,
I noticed
so.
that you are still on good terms with Nikolai, who did the same thing to
We're
your
on
mind.
terms. And he didn't do anything to my mind.
Well, that's... Maybe I misunderstood. You said that he was influencing all of us. I mean, I said the same in his apartment.
He has an innate talent, as many of us do, that allows him to, as I understand it, know what people want to hear. And he is able to say such things that they go over better or put us at ease.
Color me envious. That sounds wonderful. I wish I had that.
I don't approve of what he did. Nor do I understand why Twigg would attack an ally when we were in the middle of a fight against a creature that, by all rights, should have killed us. I don't take lightly to that. I've spent the last several months trying to make sure that they stayed alive.
It certainly does feel that way. I can see the, not forgiveness, the terms that you found for Nikolai. My only request is, and Maurice unfurls his appendage very slowly, is that you find a way to navigate the things that are new and the paths forward that we must take together.
That's cool as fuck.
You think so?
Look at that thing. That's amazing. Can you move it?
Yeah, I mean,
How did you get... What? When did this happen?
it's an infection, Gav.
Oh,
It's-
that's cool then.
It's a scar. And
But it's
Maurice
not killing
curls it up.
you.
Not anymore. I'm not happy about it.
Think of how intimidating you're going to look in any fight. You might win by default.
I guess I hadn't considered that.
I'm not very good at this, am I? I'm glad you're all right. That's what I came here to say.
And
I know.
Maurice kind of, with his good arm, like, extends his hand out to embrace you.
Yeah, she'll allow it. I know I'm not the easiest person to get along with, but you've not given up on me.
Never. I hope that we don't give up on each other. Maurice exits the embrace and kind of digs around behind him and produces a folio. It says, I spoke with Basil, and he gave me this. It's what you think it is.
I will say this.
Oh.
When he gave it to you, he said, 1, he should be there when you open it. 2, that you should only open it when all of you are present.
Clear.
And for the love of God, do not open it before you're ready.
Cool. So, you're it. It is what you think it is.
She goes to grab it.
And he says, I think that we all need to be together when we do. I think that we need to find it within all of ourselves, and not just you. It's not just your job. But we need to find it within all of us to come to terms of a new reality, a new future where we can finally find out what our past is together. I know that that's going to be a lot more difficult now that you really told Twigg you'd kill them if you saw them again?
Yes. If you want neutral territory, you want neutral ground, for you I can do this.
That's a start. Maurice kind
Duncan, I'm not going to do anything rash. Don't worry about it.
Duncan's poking his head out from underneath the hospital bed.
Your little thought form Shetland is just looking up like, Mom and Dad. I'm so happy that you're here, but you're so unhappy.
Maurice looks at Gav and says, my time here is ending soon. They say maybe a day, or maybe 2 days, maybe less. And from here, I'm taking a step on a part of a new journey. My new future. I'm going back to study with Kenroy. You remember Kenroy?
Yeah, I think I've met him a couple times, we would say.
You've tuned out more stories about Kenroy than you, yeah. I feel like I can do so much more. And at least for the short term, I'm going to teach in a cell. I'm going to have a student or two, I don't know.
I'm happy for you. You are the best of us.
I wish I agreed with you, but let's just say that the best of us is when we're all together. and I will be ready for you. If not immediately, then soon. And I promised Basil that when we were all together, we could read the war report.
When that day comes, which I hope is very soon, I will be able to move forward. I don't know how there can be much of a future without understanding our past. I don't frankly know how anyone here is surviving with their entire lives ripped away from them.
I know it's foolish to hope, but I think the answers might be in the war report.
I think so too.
What are you going to do?
Maurice, it is for the sake of our friendship that I think I shouldn't tell you.
Right. Are you going to be okay?
I'm going to be fine.
Do you have a place to stay? Are you staying with Nikolai? I still don't like that guy. I'm sorry.
I'm not staying with Nikolai. In fact, I was going to rather hope that Kyrrie could work with me on some of this.
Kyrrie's a good egg.
Know that whatever you might hear in the future, I'm not just doing this to prove some sort of point.
Yeah, hey, just stop telling me now. I'm gonna be sweating the what ifs. You've got friends. I'm merely one of them.
I know.
Okay. Well, I would say don't do anything I wouldn't do, but that probably would mean that that's none of the things that you would ever do.
And yep, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I'll do my best to not get caught.
That's smart.
And with those reassuring words, we exit out through the window of this picturesque scene and begin wending our way back towards the Topiary district, where we will be visiting another friend, another PC fairly shortly. But before we do that, we are going to take a 5 or 10 minute break. Everybody who's watching, go ahead. Thank you so much for joining us. Also, thank you to the Artistically Inclined for adding some bits our way. As always, you're so great. Thank you. And guys, we'll be back. And in the meantime, use the restroom, take a break, do whatever you need to. We'll be here to show you the rest of the actuality shortly. Hey everybody, and welcome back to our actual play of The Invisible Sun, The Hole in the World. And I, as always, am your GM, Great Zamino, as once again I am joined by my lovely cast members, playing Gavriel on my left.
Still me, it's still Marcy, still Experimental Madness. Thanks for sticking around for part 2.
Below her, playing our Weaver, Maurice.
Hi, I'm Bill, also known as Ghost Bike.
And then our second resident apostate, playing Twigg.
What's up, y'all? I'm Hopper, aka Phil Dudley, and that's with a 3 instead of an E because I'm a bad fucking person. And I'm playing Twigg.
Not that bad. And then playing our Vance. Kyrrie.
I'm Marissa, and I go by Critical Kitten on the interwebs, and I play Kyrrie von Hollingsworth, the first assistant librarian of the Order of the Vance.
Awesome. Excellent. And when last we left, you guys had a few kind of scenes, a little bit of, again, kind of recovering from all of the craziness of doing the work of saving everybody from the Lunarian Opera House. You guys have made some personal revelations. You've also kind of spoken to some other NPCs that were fairly revelatory in their own kind of offhanded kind of way. And so, but before we kind of see where this takes all the rest of you, we are going to rejoin the one PC we haven't checked in with yet. And I think in order to do that, we are going to need a little bit of music. Now, actually, maybe, I think that's better. So, Twigg, you have found your way out of the Sky Tower, probably quicker than everybody else. In short order, I think a lot of this has been a bit of a blur. Not only did you discover, to your chagrin, Nikolai's abilities, you invoked your own abilities in order to visit a very spiteful kind of attack on the member of the Pristine Guard that was stonewalling you. And you found out in short order that not only was that Pristine Guard member prepared for whatever you had in store, but had also stolen a couple of vital bits of information from you as you realized that Yondo Trask was also a Logivore. And describe for me the journey back to your lot in the Topiary District. What is it like for you?
The Twigg straight up walked back. They're not really taxi cab, snacksy kind of person. They just a long, kind of slow. They don't really have shame. It's more of a walk of contemplation.
And there's a great deal to contemplate. Not only did this horrifying hate cyst show you some of the nightmares that lurked at the back of your subconscious, but at the same time, a lot has transpired even before this cyst was destroyed. You ended up encountering your nemesis in the form of Jiren the Devoured, a silver-plated villain who had hunted you for the purpose of finding some sort of plan that you had hid in your past, something to do with a pain engine. You have no home. You are finding your way back. You only are left with more and more questions. And time slips past you as you weave your way through the districts. I mean, a great deal of the city is laid bare to you. The Marquis Quarter being kind of in the center, you have to take a very long, circuitous route north through a fairly spare city from the middle of the night all the way through morning into the afternoon by the time you get back safely to the Topiary District, making sure to avoid patches of the ruined Expanse. The part of the city that you now know has been kind of created and left fallow and destroyed by hate cysts like the one you took care of. And I think that your feet blistered, your spirit saddened and contemplative, you find your way back to the garden that you had begun to grow with the help of a small shrub-like creation that you gave life to. You awakened a shrub, and it has called itself Fix-Up. And I'm going to turn a card to see if something has happened or not. This one's new. The Driver. Defender of mysteries, rats, mirrors, and stone. Meanings: impetuous, travel, forward motion, and speed. always moving forward. Sometimes there is no other recourse than to simply get away. And
Like, raise a glass to Monty Cook, y'all. Holy shit.
that is, for anybody who's watching who's new to the stream, we typically get tons and tons of practically precognitive sooth deck cards, which describe the situations our characters are currently undergoing. The tagline behind this is, "There is nowhere she cannot go if she is behind the wheel." Yeah, and so I think that typically what this is also signifies is that, I mean, the ruined expanse is very much a hazard to kind of wend and travel your way through all of Saturnine, but through sheer force of will and through kind of just almost absent-mindedly, subconsciously manifesting this unstoppable force of nature of your personality, you have found your way back to the place you want to be. And in the spirit of something moving forward, a sight greets you in the small garden that you were not anticipating that you'd see. In the small burial mound where you have buried the remains of Jiren the Devoured, there is a small sapling, about up to your knee. That sapling has bright silver bark, and Fix Up is kind of a small distance away from the sapling as you find your way there, and looks up. "Oh, you're back."
Said I would be. I always keep my promises.
And it kind of nods. It would seem sagely if it weren't literally practically born yesterday or less than a week ago. It just kind of nods. "Look," and it points towards the sapling.
You do that.
Describe for me the state of this garden.
I think it's not even really so much of a garden as I think when Twigg basically just pulled on raw green magic from the green sun to force Jiren's body into the earth, like this kind of I'm kind of picturing it's like asphalt or concrete that's been there for a really long time, and like the world started to reclaim it, so it's like cracked and broken with little weeds all throughout it. And I think there's a very visible kind of outward expansion of greenery kind of covering this space, or all the way up to the borders of like several collapsed buildings, like slabs of concrete and other more esoteric materials just kind of stacked on all sides. But this small like pool of green centering on Jiren's grave is starting to flourish.
Absolutely. It's like pioneer species breaking through metamorphic rock. And you are starting to see little flourishing. There's nothing really budding yet, obviously. It's not kind of like poison ivy grows something instantaneously. It is rapacious. It is fairly vibrant growth, but it is not anywhere near instantaneous. You realize that this, like many important things, is a process. And what do you do in this new reclaimed area? I will also add one thing, which is somewhat beyond you, in the neighborhood, just beyond this lot, near where the Linarian Opera House is centered, there was a pall, a gloom that kind of shadowed every bit of you. It shadowed the area, kind of. It really kind of felt dispiriting to be in this area. And now that you've made your way back, it's the middle of the afternoon, and there's a light bit of gray rain. And that said, it's otherwise a fairly kind of almost tranquil day. That gloom is gone. And because it's raining, I need to pull a card. The card is Elusive Sleep. Futility, worry, stress, and awareness. The richest cannot buy sleep. The strongest among us cannot compel its submission. Even the wisest person might lose a night's rest to anxiety. Still, when we're awake, we're aware, and that awareness can be crucial. Elusive sleep belongs to vision swans, blades, and water. It accentuates blue magic and it weakens red magic. Tell me something, what's your card family again?
None of those. Secrets, ravens, and books.
Okay. So, I'm going to give you a point of joy. And I'm going to make a GM shift. As the rain turns into a key fall. And a rain of keys begins falling all around you and in the garden. And as as this kind of almost like hail starts kind of hitting all of the areas around you, whatever like bypassers are not too far away from you, they kind of all open up umbrellas and begin walking. You manage to find cover underneath one of your kind of one of these ruined outcroppings at the border, and that's when you see spiraling in the air a little green glint as it falls to earth. And Fix-Up has joined you under the outcropping, but then begins kind of moving forward.
I think
What's that?
Twigg's gonna pull him back. You ain't been alive that long, little guy. Let's make sure we keep you that way, yeah? And I kind of imagine Twigg's just like sprawled out and has a little bit of a nosebleed and like wipes that nosebleed and ventures out into this key fall and to find that thing.
And as you notice that green glint kind of, basically kind of not too far away from the grave that you dug for Jiren the Devoured, what does that wicked key look like?
I think it looks, it's not especially complex. It's like a mid-century key. A few teeth, no significant notching, but it appears to be made out of copper, and it's been, I believe the term I'm looking for is verdigris.
Mm-hmm.
It's been completely oxidized, so it's just a copper key that's been about the size of a business card.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you are holding it in your hand, you just feel another one hit the back of your head, like another key. Ow! Oh, right, it's
Fuck.
a key fall.
It's like a big fuck off skeleton key that just like whacks the back of their head.
Uh-huh. Yeah, at which point I think you're kind of urged to move back to cover.
God damn it. All right. Yeah, and Twig makes it back to cover under that same like slab outcropping. And just I think kind of hands it to, like, kind of holds it out to Fix-Up to inspect.
And and just again fix up, kind of looks out, and you just hear, "Ah, pretty." And as you see him kind of admiring the key, you also notice there's a little movement in your pocket as Literalum, and actually, this is an important question. Did Literalum ever leave Kyrrie's pocket?
I believe, if I recall correctly, Literalum ended up back with Twigg.
Okay. So yeah, Literalum at this point and the little paper crane both kind of pop their heads out of the pocket and just start kind of like looking a little bit with interest at the key.
Twigg will definitely hold up the key for Literalum to inspect as well.
And yeah, again, you just see, I think, the little script on the page golem's chest change, and it just reads "Wicked" in very heavy script letters, block font, and there's a big exclamation point at the end.
It's like very thorny letters. Like it's very. It kind of looks like a metal band logo. It's
exactly. And yeah, as well, tell me something. As the rain comes, it comes when it does, but eventually it passes, as does time. So I want you to describe for me, what is time like for you? How much time passes here? What do you do? Describe and paint this garden for me.
I think we see this passes in kind of a montage of it's almost like skipping forward several hours every time, and we watch the days pass slowly but surely, and like the greenery of this garden kind of in this almost crater formed by the destruction around it. And you see Twigg kind of tending to certain plants and certain things, pushing their magic into the world around them. Literalum kind of tagging along, the crane flitting around. Like I think the little paper crane loves to roost in this strange silver-leafed tree. Fix up, kind of just constantly tagging around, doing little things, I think mimicking Twigg in some ways. And that outcropping that they took shelter in underneath, you see Twigg using their magic to move, using spellcraft to kind of shift these massive blocks, ancient blocks and fragments of the old world, creating a kind of a cavernous space in this giant pile of concrete, plants curling up to grow and form, and until there's enough space to just kind of get crouched down and come into a room. And there's this ledge on one side, and from the seemingly endless voluminous pockets of this jacket, in this case a vest, or sorry, no, it's not a vest, it's still a duster. Twigg has placed these balls of memory, each one with a small scrap of paper torn from a Pulp Fiction cover with a description of who the memory belongs to. And some of the ones that they've taken and consumed from other people, they take the time to basically make themselves, it's not pretty. They're basically like, memories up, and place them on the shelves and on this kind of long shelf. And they plant some of the pale seeds around in this kind of spiraling circle around this silver leaf sapling. And as we see this space kind of life grabbing on, where it's never been before. Jiren's grave now has small, pale white seedlings all around it, kind of almost in a spiral centering on that silver-leafed sapling.
Excellent. Yes, and yeah, I think that it's interesting as the days pass that sapling, that silver sapling begins growing a little bit more vibrant, and I think a few days pass and it's a little bit past your knee. I think that those pale saplings begin growing as well, and it's kind of at the heart of this new structure. I will also tell you this. The memory that you stole from Gavriel, no matter where you put it, it seems to seethe and steam and just roil in whatever container you put it.
Notably, actually, that's the exception. That never goes on the shelf.
Okay.
That always stays in Twigg's pocket. I should have mentioned that.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. And I think, there's a small, just very functional living space has kind of formed. There's a like you see like this little concrete and plant cave with a, and frankly, shot like one of our little montage clips is Twigg just pulling out Pulp Fiction paperbacks, like, and there's like 70 of them, and it's just in a stack on the floor. And occasionally, like, you just see them chilling, watching the sunset with Fix Up and Literalum, and just kind of casually perusing it, and like you just see the words disappear as they're reading this, like just absolute shit space opera. But it's like that's not.
So I am going to pull one more card, and we're going to see how this goes. Okay. The Enticing Jewel. Vision, swans, blades, and water again. This color is invisible. It means greed, money, beauty, goals, success. The light at the end of the tunnel, the brass ring, the center of the target, the object of our desire lies before us in the form of the enticing jewel. We want it, we have to have it. It represents beauty, but the side of beauty that demands attention and probably possession. It is the beauty that can sometimes call to our darker natures. It brings out greed, ambition, and selfishness. Let me double check something. It shines in the darkness, its beauty mocking me. Its absence from my possession is a wrong that must be righted. So let me think about this. I think that this is the potential for success. It also suggests greed and a love of wealth and the danger of such things. I think the enticing jewel is the potential for success, and I think that you see this manifest in this new home that you build, beginning to build for yourself. And I think at the same time, a thought occurs to you, which is, I think that there is this darker impulse that is at the current of it. And I think there is something about this dark impulse as you begin growing something large and something. There's kind of like this need for it to be zealous or to do. There's something holding you, trying to strive you forward. And as you look at the pale seeds surrounding that silver sapling, there is a sobering moment. What do you do with that moment?
I think, we kind of, as we get a slow motion montage, and at the end, like, it just kind of stops after almost a week of hard work and just productivity and like kind of a calmness. And Twigg has been contemplating a lot of things. There's so many unknowns, and they're scared. They're really scared. And you see them pull one of the last pale seeds, the ones that they didn't plant from this jacket and pulling out a incongruously large knife, which they flip around and they're using the point to etch tiny words into. The camera kind of slows down, and I feel like in this situation there'd probably be subtitles because it's very hard to make out. But into the body of this seed, they carve it in such a way that it almost looks like a bullet, casing included, like a full round, a rifle round, in fact, out of this pale, woody substance. And it says, "Little one, I am sorry. I am bringing you into this world as an act of desperation and fear, and it is not fair. You are made to destroy me. Your purpose is not a failing on your part. Your purpose is not your fault. You are the answer to the question of who I might be and who I might become. You are my gift to this strange and confusing world. All I can ask is that you fulfill this purpose, and if it is asked of you, that you do so. I would hope that you can forgive me. I understand if you cannot. I love you, and I do not know you yet. I name you Mercy, if you accept. I am sorry, and so grateful." And the tip of this bullet is carved with Twigg's true name, Castoyanthe, in a spiral that reaches up to the tip. And I think we close in and we see, as the last part of this, Twigg slashes their hand, because that's a totally rational place to get blood from, and every movie should. That's not unreasonable, but okay, we're gonna go with the trope. And blood and ink soak into this pale seed coming from Twigg's veins, and they awaken the bullet.
So, I need to pull another card. Let's see how this goes. Imprisoning ice. Entrapment, imprisonment, danger, and conflict. The very environment holds you fast when you are trapped in ice. You cannot move and the cold threatens your life. You cannot persuade the ice or trick it. You can't fight it or best it in a contest. The ice is impersonal, unrelenting, and vastly powerful, even though it's nothing more than frozen water. Unless, of course, it's more than that. Perhaps there is intelligence there. Perhaps it is not just frozen water, but a living spirit of cold, of stillness, of imprisonment. In such a case, the actions of the ice might be entirely personal. You may have brought your terrible fate down upon your own head. The ice doesn't need to hurry. You're not going anywhere.
Fuck.
Yeah. So, as you cast the spell, you feel something in your chest that you haven't felt since you come back to the actuality, which is tachycardia, the rapid beat of a heart. It feels like it, but it's more like a ghost, like almost like ghost pain from a missing limb. It's the same feeling, except it's where your heart should be. And your heart is beating at a rapid pace. And you know, as you enkindle the bullet, you have not given it a mouth to speak, you have not given it eyes to see, but you know for a fact that there is a dark acceptance of its fate. And that you know that one day, this bullet may kill you. It might not just kill you. it might send you to a place you know deep in your heart, wherever it is, called the stillness. And you know that that is a place where death is final, where the Empress Shalad has no purchase over your soul. That name sticks to you in the back of your subconscious. Shalad, the Pale. But it all falls away as you consider mercy. A cold mercy it is indeed. Where do you put this bullet?
Twigg wraps it in kind of grubby bandana and tucks it into their pocket.
It disappears into your voluminous pockets. How many days has it been?
It's been 4 days.
Maurice, how often have you tried to get in touch with Twigg?
I think Maurice has been attempting a new kind of magic. And as he wrote a poem called The Ballad of Darwin Yates, a story of their own accomplishments in vanquishing the ghost of the etheric radio tower. And he puts a spell into this. A spell of changing a creature's emotional state. And ironically enough, it is mercy and forgiveness. And, told through the frame of the mercy and forgiveness and understanding that they showed Dwight. And he has just finished in script and handwriting that he despises and loathes for its scratchiness and ugliness. He has just finished this poem, and I think this also makes sense that he is now kind of exiting, gathering his things to exit the hospital. He's being discharged. And he takes this piece of paper and folds it and puts it in his pocket. And as he walks out of the hospital door, he is wondering how he'll get in touch with Twigg. And I don't think he's figured it out yet. And is walking to Kenroy's.
It's funny you should mention that. Because the next day, Twigg is going to speak to the little crane and ask it to carry a message. Is that a possibility, Zach?
Absolutely.
It's not long. It's just a short. Again, it's I think it's torn from the margins of a pulp fiction novel, a pulp like a detective novel, just because Twigg felt it was appropriate, and it just says, "Hope you're doing okay. I need a little time, but call me if you need me." And tucked into the folds of the crane's body. And then sends it on its way with instructions to find Maurice.
Maurice, the next day, alighting on the window of Kenroy's cell, the home in which Kenroy has put together his cell, alighting on the window of his guest bedroom where you are staying, is a tiny paper crane with that message in it.
I think Maurice is, very cautious and kind of as if he had birdseed in his hand, kind of holds it out and lets the crane kind of hop towards him. And it, I imagine it kind of unfolds. So, sorry, is the crane the message, or is it holding a message?
It has a strip of paper kind of tucked into its folds.
So yeah, I imagine it kind of drops the message, and Maurice reads this, and I can't figure out like what effect this would be, what spell this would be, but I want to find a way to like magically origami this poem I've written into something that this crane can hold.
Well, you know what? Why don't we take some of the new Weaver rules that we've built?
I've already forgotten them.
Yeah, so no worries. So you're going to spend 1 sorcery to affect somebody other than you.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to spend, I think, God, I'm starting to forget them too. Let's say spend 4 sorcery. And it's meant to affect somebody's state, or is it meant to communicate?
So the spell itself, the secret I'm using is poetic magic. So that's a level 4 spell, and the effect I'm doing is level 3. So that's the poem itself. This poem, if anyone reads it, they will be affected by this spell to affect them to feel, to change their emotional state, to feel mercy and forgiveness and understanding.
Okay.
Can I just like shove like a hidden knowledge to be like, oh yeah, if you use magic this way, you can origami something really nice.
You may not only spend hidden knowledge, you may add a sorcery point to increase its level to a total of 6.
Sweet. So yeah, I do that, and this using probably for the first time successfully since his appendage has changed, Maurice is weaving successfully with this tentacle arm as well, and without touching it, the paper folds itself into like what, those like little note things, you twist the paper like grade school things. What do we call those?
Oh God, what are those? Yes, no.
It's the S. It's like you fold it up and it becomes like a little. Oh my God!
Just a little thing,
something
like a little
catcher.
A little mouth thing. So it's like it's that, but it's so tiny that this little paper crane can like pick it up with its little mouth. All right, so I'm gonna spend that hidden knowledge because that was dope. And I'm just like retconning that I have like this weird cantrip now. So this spell's done, and then Maurice is going to write on like one of the folds of it. Actually, no, he's not going to do that. He won't write anything else.
Okay.
He will send it back. And what time is it?
Well, I'm gonna pull a card, and maybe that'll tell us.
Sure.
This one is on the invisible sun now, which means it's in effect for the rest of this cycle. Endless maze, blue and red, blue strengthened, red weakened, journey, long spans of time, insanity, inner turmoil, as within, so without. The maze that traps you slows your journey, forces you to double back, and leads you to where you don't want to go. Okay. So I am gonna say that a journey or task takes much longer than expected. Okay. So I think a couple of days pass.
Okay.
And I think that, the time of day, I don't think really matters so much as it's just the amount of time that passes. In 2 days, you receive that message, Twigg. Would you choose to resist the spell?
Always.
All right. Roll to resist. Your target level is 6. I will say this. It is...
Oh,
Go ahead.
Yeah. So the target level is 6. I think Twigg's in general gonna basically anytime anything will affect their mind, they're gonna either, like in this case, they're gonna jam Sortilege into that.
Okay.
So I am rolling on with a fancy metal D10. Yeah, that's my magic die.
All right, we just need 1 6.
That's a 9 on the magic die and a 2 on the other one.
Okay, actually, am I wrong? Should that be 2 successes? I think let's pull another card and see what happens.
That's
Down with that.
ominous.
Okay. Banished Serpent. It accentuates silver magic. It weakens gold, balance, exile, punishment. Vizsla no exile, but for them and their time in shadow, the exile was self-imposed. The Banished Serpent was cast out, sent back from whence it came. Banishment gets rids us of a problem, but it does not bring it to a permanent end. It is rarely a true solution. Rather, it is most often a punishment. We banish those who have threatened us or wronged us, because exile is what they fear. The fact that it ends the threat, at least temporarily, is just an added benefit. As a punishment, then, it is an act of balance, an appropriate and measured response to an unwanted act. Cast out, the serpent retreats back to its lair to contemplate its next scheme. Okay, so what happens then is you feel the effect almost take hold, and then you just force it out of your mind. But there is a knowledge that comes with that, which is 1, you know that this was a spell Maurice cast with, I'm assuming, good intentions. 2,
Go ahead.
Yeah. 2, you understand that saying no to this missive is a temporary solution to a long-term problem. What do you do?
I will add with a 9. You know that this spell is not directed at Twigg. This spell is in this poem, and whoever reads this poem.
It's a innate effect as opposed to a
As opposed to a targeted effect.
we're bordering on screaming at the GM roll for initiative, but I love that. Shout out to Encounter Party, amazing podcast. Everybody should check it out. Yeah, I think Twigg is at first kind of pissed, but like gets over it kind of fast, and I think feeds the crane a couple tidbits of a rather steamy romance novel. Which, like, I'm basically picturing that this little paper crane just will like hork whatever is given to it, and you can tell me if I'm off base, but has gradually started to get actual feathering on its body, formed out of like minuscule, impossible to read words.
Oh yeah.
As it's fed tiny little bits of text. And Twigg looks at this and reads this poem. And I think it hits hard, actually, the poem itself. And I think they actually consume it. I'll spend the sorcery to do that. So it becomes like it's permanently etched into them.
Excellent.
The Ballad of what was his name?
Darwin
Ballad
Yates.
of
Yeah.
Darwin Yates is told from the perspective of Darwin, and it's a lifetime of struggle and rejection and resentment, and true passion for his own craft that finally, in a moment of lightness beyond the end of his life, he was able to accept.
Yeah, and I think the fact that that was with our help hits, because Twigg doesn't feel like they belong here, but that nobody was trying to kill them. There was no benefit. There was no reward. There was no reason to do it. It was just an act of compassion in a strange and confusing and unforgiving world. Yeah, that hits. You have landed an emotional hit, sir. Feel good about yourself.
A palpable hit.
And was there anything besides that ingrained into this message?
No, it was the poem itself and the weave of to change an emotional state. And that's it.
And I think I know what that state was intended to change to for anybody that read it.
Absolutely.
I think that it's been a couple days, so it's been about a week. I think we see it dawns, like where dawn dawns. The sun, one of the suns, I don't know what fucking sun it is, Indigo Sun is rising. And Twigg is first attempts to nom on a very stale pastry, and it kind of gives up on that, and instead chomps down on like a surprisingly like an actual it's a cookbook. Twigg eats a cookbook. And kind of looks down at Fix Up and just goes, keep an eyeball out for me, bud.
Always.
Don't let anybody touch the tree, yeah?
Never.
I'll be back.
I'll wait. And it returns to its duties.
And Twigg is gonna deign to take public transportation instead of walking to go see Maurice.
Excellent. I am going to pull a card to see what transportation you take.
Oh dear God.
Let's see what
horrors await us.
All right, well, I'm gonna add tequila to my drink then. Medicinal.
Oh, this one's great. It's compelling voice, invisible. Its meanings are control, domination, persuasion. The right voice can command an army. And right now what it's showing me is an image of a woman reading from a book emblazoned on which is a star. And behind her seems to be a large row of bird-headed people, or bird-headed kind of almost figures carrying a votive candle. And by her side on the right is a ram with glowing eyes. By the way, Secrets, Ravens, Books, and Flame, that's yours, isn't it?
Secrets, Ravens, and Books.
Yeah. So in this case, what greets you is a large black ram with glowing eyes, astride which somebody has basically has kind of nestled in without a saddle. At which point I think there is, oh God, how weird do I want to make this? So this ram is super fluffy, and there is what appears to be like a little rope cord tie on which it is like a handle. And as the person alights off of or dismounts the ram, it turns, this person turns behind you, this kind of rather, very kind of like workman, with workman-like demeanor, this woman pulls on the handle, and nestled into the fur, or the tufted hair of this ram, this massively poofy ram, is a carriage compartment. And you realize there's another one on the other side, so technically she can do twice the business.
Ride share. That's totally economical.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And it's got a built-in heating system, as you can feel the heat of the ram's body on your right side as you nestle into a very firmly tufted chair.
I think this is one of those actually kind of almost a watershed moment, strangely enough, for Twigg. I think Twigg just kind of is embracing nothing is sane, everything is bizarre, and that's fucking beautiful.
Yeah, and also it's the first ram share card you've ever had. Thank you, Bill, for sending that.
I'm sure it's the next big IPO, everybody.
I was gonna say twice the passenger storage, twice the hour, 10 times the awkwardness. Okay, so you make your way there. It has been a week. Kyrrie, Gavriel, and Maurice. In that order, I would like you guys to tell me what you've been up to this week.
Let's see. So I think Kyrrie has been mulling over back at the university the problem of the hate cyst piece and what she's going to do about it. I think she's actually come to the conclusion, after thinking about a lot of different things she could try to do with it, that she's going to try to undertake a dissection at some point. And it's not going to be immediate. She wants to figure out how to do it properly. And in fact, she has started amassing resources to figure out how she might be able to do this safely, or as safe as you can with a piece of hate cyst. But what she wants to do is effectively keep a piece of the hate cyst as insurance, so that when she feels that she needs to give the rest back to King Nine, he won't get all of it. So yeah, she's been doing research into that effectively.
All right. I would like you to make a magical knowledge roll. So you can spend sorcery on this, or you can spend intellect, whichever you prefer.
I'll spend intellect.
Okay. I'm gonna say your challenge rating is its level of 8 to see how you can safely handle this thing.
Perfect. 7 plus
Okay.
1 is 8, so it meets.
Okay, so meets beats. You are taking a look at this, and you are able to kind of section off a piece of this. That said, what are you trying to learn?
I guess she wants to be able to study the piece that she keeps in a kind of safer capacity, but she is trying first and foremost to figure out a place to store the quarter of the sample that she intends to keep away and keep private from King Nine. And I think she's been thinking about the mirrors, and the secret that she has access to, where she can go into mirrors temporarily, and kind of transverse them, and is wondering if perhaps if she can figure out a way to manipulate that secret so that she can keep her piece of the hate cyst inside a mirror.
So I will say this. Your pocket mirror is cracked, but there is probably a piece of it that you could feed this thing into. With your mirror lurk secret, you could probably just dip it in.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what you want to do?
Yes.
Okay. So, as you feed this writhing kind of piece of festering cyst into the mirror, you just hear in the back of your mind, yes, thank you. As whatever those mirror things are, you feel a slight tug on the cyst piece as it's pulled through the mirror. It takes you a couple of days to kind of study this in as much capacity as you can without, harming yourself or inadvertently causing some sort of collateral chaos. I am, however, going to turn a card. Oh, Blind Guardian. It accentuates silver, and it weakens gold. Safety, impartiality, serenity, blindness, and challenges. The Blind Guardian watches over us like a protector, as probably our Doric guards. But because of its blindness, it confronts all intruders equally, from the lowest vermin to the most powerful god, from the purest angel to the vilest demon. Its blindness also confers a calmness. You'll never see the guardian worry or fret, nor will you see it eager or anticipatory. To those that seek what it guards, it's a difficult challenge. You cannot bribe or charm this guardian, and despite its blindness, or because of it, it is very difficult to fool or deceive. So, I'm gonna retcon that last moment. You just hear the sizzle of it. You don't hear the, thank you. You just hear it enter the mirror. Your fingers touching the surface as though it's rippling through water. And that's it. You just have a calm certainty that whatever you just did, it's taken care of. What else do you do with your time?
I think before kind of moving past the mirror, Kyrrie will almost speak to the air and say, I may need that back. Mind you, whoever's listening.
As you look,
Not expecting a response, but...
As you look at the mirror, at your own reflection, the movement matches and syncs up, except you notice there is a very slight nod when you look long enough. And that's it. Do you seek out Maurice or Gavriel?
Yeah, I think Kyrrie will make her way to Gavriel, because she knows from the last encounter that they had that Gav sort of took attention or paid attention to the mention of the Deathless Triumvirate. And Kyrrie has really gotten it into her head that that's the nut they have to crack. That's where a lot of these almost like ley lines of mystery and authority and power are seeming to converge. And she doesn't really want to barge into anything alone. So she feels like Gav has the most experience with this kind of thing. And so is going to seek her out.
Not to jump my place in line, but I think Kyrrie would probably have received a letter at this point. Traditional Saturnine mail, addressed to her residence at the Vancian campus, very basically informing her where Maurice can be found at Kenroy's residence, where he will be for likely a month.
Absolutely. So you get that message, Kyrrie. So, we are now going to jump in kind to Gavriel.
I was just going to say that I actually think that, Kyrrie, you get a message from Gav asking to meet her in a specific place. Are we still in the week, or are we jumping a month?
No, this is the week. Yeah.
Still in the week. She's having you meet her in the ruined Expanse.
Interesting.
I think
this is perfect, because I think Kyrrie was struggling to figure out how to find Gav, because she didn't want to presume Gav was like at Nikolai's place. So she's like, interesting.
You guys give me a lot of time to think about this. Along the edges, I think, between the city and the ruined Expanse. Now, Zach, there's some like ruined buildings there, right?
You would like to meet in the ruined Expanse.
Yep. I said what I said.
There are many ruined buildings there.
Thank you. That's great.
Really don't like that tone.
I think that that's where Gav is setting up a place to stay. She's putting together a hideout.
So, I am going to need to turn a card.
Okay.
And I need you to make a roll.
Sure. What am I rolling?
You're going to roll perception.
Okay. I'm good at that. Can I put a bene in that?
You may. I'm going to tell you what your challenge rating is.
I can't wait.
It's 7, in line with the value of the card that I rolled, or I gathered.
Well, that's not bad.
Which is Ghostly Presence. It accentuates pale, and it weakens green.
Hey, Zach, that's a 9 on the dice.
Okay. You are very aware that wherever you are, it is very dangerous.
Yeah.
It's incredibly dangerous. and you are alert to all potential challenges that I'm sorry.
I got you.
I'm sorry. I'm having buffering.
Well, as
Have
I
you
think,
tried turning your DM off and on again?
that's what I was trying to do there, but I think that I think Gav, you know, I feel like she's a savvy enough soldier, and she knows not a great deal about the city, but she knows enough that people do not go here. And for what she's about to do, she needs a base of operations that no one will ever think to look for. And it's here.
Okay.
So she spent the last week finding a safe enough building that she can clear out, possibly even build on or under, to establish a safe house.
Okay. So I'm going to tell you this. With a 9 on the die, I have still turned ghostly presence. Its meanings are the past, guilt, and unresolved issues.
Oh, yes.
So here's what I am going to say. This place, the Ruined Expanse, brings out the worst in people. It brings out their fear, gloom, and all manner of terrifying things, not limited by cyst spawn and vampires and other horrible things that go bump during the day and the night. So I am going to tell you this. What horrible memory does this being in this place trigger in you?
That's an interesting question. I'm assuming we're going on shadow memories because Gav has no memories here.
Yeah.
What were you going to say?
I was going to... There will be an additional context that I give this, depending on what you say.
Interesting.
So proceed with that in mind. I didn't think you would do this, but...
You've underestimated my power. My goodness me. Let me think of the terrible, terrible memory here. I actually think that I'm going to say it's from when she was pulled back into shadow and it was no longer her world. And now there's these two parallel images of a life that she didn't actually live versus the life that she does remember living, but they occupy the same space in her brain.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been and that newer memory when she got pulled back into shadow has been steadily gnawing its way through her own past, slowly but surely. And that has left her completely adrift with no bearing whatsoever.
Okay. So as you are having these moments of doubt and reflection, you hear an unsettling voice in your head.
Lost. So lost.
Jakob is speaking to you.
Stolen. Precious memories. Like those stolen from me.
On a 9 perception, I will tell you this. This is the most Jakob has ever said beyond those 2 phrases. He said ad infinitum. What do you do?
I feel like Gav can talk to the creatures inside of her, So while she's alone and she's like cleared out this space, I think she's underground now in this building. What was stolen from us? What do you want?
My glory. Back. My victory. I'll eat through your life if I don't get it back.
I'd like you to make an interaction roll.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say your challenge is a 6.
Okay. Not gonna make it. That's a 3.
Okay. Seems fairly scary. Seems fairly grave. Jakob is upset. Jakob is angry. Jakob is inside you.
I think Gav's eyes flash red. As you said, that was the color associated with him.
Mm-hmm.
And she is still answering back, even though she's maybe even sympathetically feeling the anger inside of her. Tell us how to get it back. You are in here with me. If you want to get out, then we're going to have to help each other.
Hello, Lord. Leader of mind. Get it back. Get it back.
And as you hear this, I think that is when Kyrrie, you arrive.
Do I hear anything?
You hear Gavriel talking to herself.
I don't think you can hear Jakob, though.
Yeah.
No, she cannot.
Does Kyrrie experience anything in particular entering this place?
Would you like to make me a perception roll?
I think I don't have a choice. All right.
Again, yeah, just depends on how. Straight roll, add bene, hidden knowledge,
Okay.
whatever you like.
I'll add a perception bene.
Okay.
That's a 2.
Oh dear.
You know, you hate being here. You hate being in the ruined expanse. It is anathema. It is wrong. Every cell in your body wants to flee. But there is also something nagging at the back of your mind. And that's all you get when you kind of you finally encounter Gavriel at her meeting place.
Gav?
Kyrrie, you came.
Who are you talking to?
What do you think? And she gestures to the halo.
Is everything okay? You sounded harried.
In fact, I believe it's related to many of the reasons why I called you here. What do you think of the place? She gestures to this ruined building.
I must say, you certainly have a nice taste in interior decor.
It's a work in progress, especially for the work that I'm going to need to do. Kyrrie, I'm risking a lot telling you what I'm about to ask from you. We're friends, yes?
I think so, at least by the textbook definition of what a friend is. I think.
I'll take it. You may run screaming to the Garant about this, but that's a risk I'm willing to take. I'm going to bring down the Deathless Triumvirate.
Zach, you said this place brings out the worst nature in Vizsla, right?
It is a gloomy place of despair.
I think you see almost a sudden change come over Kyrrie. As though this kind of innocent, naive young scholar, obsessed with knowledge, kind of fades a little bit. And the person facing you is like a stronger, darker, more ambitious form of Kyrrie that you might not have really seen before. It's someone who looks more akin to the mirror version of Kyrrie, the Magister, the King 9 version of Kyrrie's future. A smile half quirks up Kyrrie's face. Bring down the Deathless Triumvirate, you say.
This world is being held hostage. It can't move forward if it doesn't even know what it's running from or what it's trying to walk away from. And I can't sit back and pretend that that is a future that I can exist in. There's no history here. I do not understand who I am. How does anyone go about their daily lives without going crazy? I'm not a scholar. You are. I know how to fight. But you know how to get me the information that I need. Now, I think you see how wrong this world is as much as I do. I think we can turn this place, and she gestures to the building. No one is ever going to look here. Most people can barely stand to be out here. I have enough voices in my head to drown out the rest. But I think you and I, we can make this world remember what it is. Will you help me?
Kyrrie takes a moment, smiles, looks back at Gav. You know, there was a man in 19th century England by the name of Lord Acton, and he made an observation that a person's sense of morality is actually lessened as his or her power increases. From that, we get the statement that power corrupts absolutely. And I think that's what the Deathless Triumvirate have done. I think they've taken the memory of this world and they've stolen it, locked it away, kept it from its people because it guarantees their power. It's not to protect us. It's to keep us from something deeper, another reality, more beyond this actuality. That's what I believe. I will help you.
Gav holds out her hand for you to, clasp.
And Kyrrie takes it.
Okay. On that note, I would like you guys to make intellect rolls.
Whew.
Both of you just tell me your highest score, and I will tell you what information you
No
look
Bene?
into. You can add Bene, you can add hidden knowledge as you would like.
Ooh, hidden knowledge. I'd like to use one of those because I have so many.
Excellent. Did you get a 9?
Sure did.
Alright. So you used a Bene and a hidden knowledge? Okay.
I can use both?
Yeah, totally.
10!
11, actually. If you use both. Oh, wait.
No, I rolled an 8.
Okay. Sorry.
But it was a 9 because I was adding the 1, but...
Excellent. Kyrrie, how'd you do?
I got a 7.
Okay.
So adding 1 to that is 8.
All right. So I'm going to treat this as a long-term project.
Ooh, hoo, hoo.
I am going to do I'm going to go all blades in the dark on this. I'm going to give you guys a clock.
Ooh.
I'm going to give you 16 slices.
Oh, man.
And I'm going to say this is foundational knowledge. Okay? So basically, at some point, this will result in either a new insight, a new direction, a new place to get some sort of certainty about your heading. I am going to, with those rolls, I'm going to mark off 6 slices. Okay? So Do that. You are almost halfway there on those rolls. I will say this. Actually, with a 7, I'm going to make it 5. I'm the DM, don't question me.
What did I say about absolute power corrupting absolutely, Zach?
You're so right. On this note, I think what you do is you start, starting looking at, like, you even think, Kyrrie, maybe we start with the foundation. Maybe we start with what we understand about maybe the legacy, maybe the underpinnings, maybe gods of this place. The folklore, as you understand that the Deathless Triumvirate have been here since time immemorial, since the beginning of Satyrine, they have existed. And with this knowledge, that is where you start. You begin pulling tomes secretly out from the lending library to help with this research. You start with foundational information. You know several things, which were there are a number of gods that have always persisted throughout Satyrine, that persist to this day, and there are those that have fallen, those that have been deposed or removed entirely. So, but with the exception that the Deathless Triumvirate somehow rose above all of them. And so that means you have heard tales of the half-god. You have heard about the entity Monday. You have studied also the comings and goings of the Angular Serpentine, the Arabast, and Zero, the demon formerly known as the Bar Zero, or the Bar Zero formerly known as the Demon Zero. And those, along with a couple of other gods, which I will come up with later, that you've heard about that pertain to... You've also, I will say, have heard about the Empress Jalad and her twin sister, who rules over the night side of the Pale. You've started building a cosmology of Satyrine together. And we're going to say that that's how much progress you make.
I think Kyrrie will also throw in there, just to have it on the paper with this cosmology, what she learned from the head of the Vancian campus about the lack of a guardian of the Indigo. And that absence is equally deserves a place on this list with these other figures.
You have heard of Sun Wardens, and you have heard of... you have not only heard of Sun Wardens, but you have also heard of this missing guardian, this missing warden. So mark that down in your notes.
And I think it sounds like we're montaging a bit there, Zach, over time. Mm-hmm. I think Gav is working on building up an armory. Being a good Russian Jew, she understands how propaganda works. Along the streets of Satyrine, there's springing up graffiti over certain buildings that say your past is stolen, or like reclaim your past. There's just like these little symbols, and like scrawled along with them is a feather.
As you do that, you notice over time that there is a symbol, an anarchy symbol, that begins being added to your marks. And sometimes you also see addendums like "fuck yes," and like other people or something is like hearing the message that you are beginning to spread. I am going to turn one card to see if anybody notices. And then I believe we're going to cut away from this. The card is the Looming Shade. Terror, doom, impending danger, and unseen threats. So something does notice. And that's all you know for now.
Great, love it.
Okay, so we are going to cut away from there. Maurice, how have you been spending the week? And I think we're going to end the episode on kind of this montage here.
Well, in a completely anticlimactic way, Maurice is writing some letters. Maurice wrote a letter and sent it to Kyrrie. Notably, this did not include any mention of the war report. just that he can be found at Kenroy's. He did not write a letter to Gav, their conversation sufficing. He has started and stopped and started and stopped writing a letter to Twigg, not knowing really where to find them, and that's kind of preventing him from sending it. But he did write 2 letters that were easier to write. The first was his resignation from the Hadassah Acclimation Center, and taking his absence from work as giving up his any sort of severance pay, saying his absence that would kind of stand, and that he said if they want to speak with him, I'm sure they'll find him, but he has no wish to contact them and considers their business done. The second letter he sends to the equivalent of the Yellow Pages listing to Ashwin's last known address, which is, I hope you're okay. Would love to see you again. Here's where you can find me. And he puts those letters in the mail along with Kyrrie's, and begins a new life, a new chapter at Kenroy's residence, just in time for the ceremony that he was invited to what seems like years ago.
I will tell you this. I'm going to pull a card. Something interesting might happen. I've pulled so many cards today.
I love it.
The Ambassador. An adept of vision, swans, blades, and water. Diplomacy, reason, discussion, intelligence. This is Basil. The offering of a broken blade is an overture for peace. Basil, after some days, reaches out to you. And almost magically, as is his way, you see him knocking on the doorstep of Kenroy's home.
I answer the door.
And he kind of looks patiently at you and says, I did some research pertaining to the information I gleaned from the report. A lead that I wanted to follow up on. And I didn't get much useful information. But I wanted to show you something.
By all means.
It's some distance away. It's in the Confederacy of Cloisters.
Excuse me a moment. Maurice goes back inside and kind of talks to Kenroy and the other students and says, I'll be back. And then meets Basil at the door with Duncan and says, I'm ready. He has slung over his shoulder kind of a messenger bag kind of situation with the war report, and kind of opens it and shows it to Basil and says, do you have any idea how hard it's been not to read it in a second? I've been good.
I also remembered Basil's British, so I'm very glad of that. I don't think it's going to be I don't think it's so much of a lead, so much I think it might be something you need to see. And he hails a cab. This one, a carriage, very plain, driven by 4 waddling white swans. And says, join me. And as you are beginning this journey, he speaks to you of some history. So, there is a figure in the war, a soldier of great renown, who, it said this was his The place of his death is detailed in the war report. A gentleman named General Nehaira. His tomb is in the Confederacy of Cloisters. I wanted to bring you here not knowing what this might pertain to, how this might pertain to your search, but I think it's something that you need to see. And
Very well.
The driver goes on for some ways, and Basil tells you basically that this figure in Saturninian lore is a figure of great renown, an accomplished soldier, a statesman whose exploits are barely remembered from the spell cast over the entire city. And he says, "Now I know you arrive within the Confederacy of Cloisters district, and you realize the reason it's called the Confederacy of Cloisters is because many churches, many cathedrals, synagogues, areas of worship practically overlapping one another, growing on top of each other, graveyards for miles, as well as areas of holy ground and sanctuary. They all arrive. You all see this. You see this as kind of like this beautiful, almost poem to the religiosity and the hope that it is derived from it, as it is still in the heart of the actuality, so powerful a force. And you arrive at a large monument made out to showing a man grasping a saber, a middle-aged man. And you kind of arrive at this large memorial. I'd say the memorial itself is about 12 feet tall. And nothing seems to happen for a while. And just as you kind of look exploratorily at Basil Victorum, he looks back at you and he says, "It's starting." And you begin seeing people walking towards the monument. And they all kind of are a strange sight to you, because you realize very quickly that while there are several actual living residents arriving, the people that the largest part arrive are members of the dead. Ghosts, skeletons, incorporeal forms, people of every stripe, Bisley, Lacunae, all dead, all of them congregating around the tomb, all of them in fine dress regalia and military uniforms. And all of them stop, dead at the tomb, and they bow their heads in silent observation, all of them maintaining neat military file, rank, and rows. The living interspersed and intermingled with them, one at a time, like grains of salt amid pepper. And that is when Basil looks and surveys with his hyper-observant mind. And you hear a whisper as he says, "Yes, I was hoping this would happen." And one of the dead turns, its curiosity insatiable as it looks and it meets your eyes. And you hear it say, "Lieutenant," and that is where we're going to end today's session. So, guys, thanks for bearing with me as we ran a little long here. I felt like this was a good moment to end on. So, okay. All right, guys, thanks so much for bearing with me. we're about 10-15 minutes over time, so I think we're going to just wrap up our kind of recaps privately. But I wanted to go ahead and end on the any kind of shout outs everybody wants to do. I'm sorry. This was fun.
Fuckity fuck, Zach.
Yeah, so I am going to go ahead and say shout outs and closing statements from Marcy. What do you want to say? Where can people find you? What are you up to? Any shout outs?
You can find me in the Ruined Expanse. No, you can find me under the username Experimental Madness most places except for Twitter, in which there I am called Merciful. And if you find me, it's your lucky day because I'm never there. I don't have any huge shout outs. Other than that, you should be tuning back into this here channel Tuesday, 8 o'clock Eastern time for another Flight of Fandom. It'll be a one shot and it will be amazing. And it will be set in the Mass Effect world.
Hope you guys are ready for my bad Krogan accent. It's going to be great.
Oh, man. Godspeed to everyone's eardrums when you have to hear me do a Vorcha voice.
Okay. Bill, where can everybody hear and find out about you? And do you have any shout outs this week?
Let's see. Find me on Discord. I'm at GhostSpike. Shout outs, as always, to Jeff Stormer's Party of One Pod. Personally, my source for any role-playing game that's not Dungeons and Dragons. I'll find out about it there. And yeah, I'll see you guys in a couple weeks.
Rounding out our posse on the other side. Hopper, where can people find you, and do you have any shout outs this week?
Oh yeah, I guess I should own the fact that I'm yeah, you can find me at Fail Deadly. That's what the 3 instead of me, because I'm a trash person. And I guess I'm gonna own the fact that I'm the one that's actually running the Mass Effect game. Sorry. But shout outs to the other podcast that Jeff Stormer participates in. I definitely didn't just inform them, which Jeff Stormer and Eric Katana Sayas, that I intend to make them my friends on Twitter today. But yeah, All My Fantasy Children is really awesome, and you should also check out. They recently dropped a couple new episodes in Counterparty. Great friends of the show, good people, lovely people. You should check that out, and also tune in on Tuesday and watch me do a whole bunch of wild ass alien voices badly.
Excellent. Finally, Marissa, do you have any shout outs or any place we can find you on the interwebs?
Yeah, well, apparently I'm hiding in mirrors and am part of everyone's reflection if you look long enough. But I mostly go by Critical Kitten on Instagram, elsewhere, although on Twitter I philosophize under my own name. As for shoutouts, actually non-RPG related, but fandom related, I have just sent the book The Good Place in Philosophy to the printer. And so that show has not been nominated for a bunch of Emmys. It's a fantastic show. And we're publishing the book in time for the Emmy Awards. It has a foreword from the series creator, Mike Shore, who's fantastic, as well as both of the philosophical consultants to the show. So check it out. It's a great book.
Awesome. And for my own statement, I will echo everybody else's shout outs, and as well as kind of add my thought to Encounter Party is awesome and really well done. And I cannot wait to make good on finishing the final season, or not the final season, the 3rd season. And God, that would be really sad if that was the case. But it's not. They're still going. It's great. And you can find me at Great Samino at Twitter and Instagram, where I will sometimes post mini painting photos. And otherwise, you'll find me on the channel. And guys, thanks so much for joining us. Thank you so much to Safe Word for subscribing. Thanks so much for Cody Hickson and for Artistically Inclined, as always. Artistically Inclined, thank you for the bits again. And most importantly, I would hope that in this time and with everything going on, that no matter what, that I hope, as always, that the invisible sun shines on you all.